I'm Chad City Manager, so I sit in on several of the subcommittees. My role really is I kind of pop in and pop out. I specifically with this provide the context for the arts and culture subsection just because of the work that's been done with the Fine Arts Commission, with the Mayor's Task Force. And so I would say that I'm the resident historian from that perspective as well. So that's why I'm here today.
I'm Aaron Young. I'm the Managing Director at the Great River Shakespeare Festival. Happy to be here.
I am Carrie Frederick. I am currently on the executive team at Pillbox Bat Company, and I've been on the Fine Arts Commission since 2019.
Hi, I'm Sharon Mansour. I'm a artist, educator, curator, and director. I direct the Cedar Tree Project, and I'm the curator of the Shift Performance Salons.
Hi, I'm Jamie Schwabe, and I am formerly the managing director at the Minnesota Conservatory for the Arts, so was real involved in the community that way. I currently have a different position that's not in the arts, but I'm also on the board of a new community theater called Sugarloaf Theater, and a previous board member for River Arts Alliance and things like that.
Carlos Espinosa, city planner here, and Luke and I will be working on this subcommittee. I'll be taking the lead to a certain extent with arts and culture. So we'll go ahead and have those who are joining us on Zoom introduce yourselves. We'll start with Dylan.
Hey, Carlos. Nice to see you. I'm Dylan Hilliker. I'm the executive director of Midwest Music Fest.
Hi, I'm Joy Davis Ripley. I'm an artist here in town, photographer and writer, and also a professor at Winona State University.
Wonderful. All right. Well, thank you everybody for joining us. The Arts and Culture Subcommittee, this is one of 12 subcommittees that have been working on the comprehensive plan. The other 11, one just got started not too long ago, and another one got started as well. That's the Park and Recreation Subcommittee. So we have the Arts Subcommittee, and then our final one that we have, and our environment sustainability. I'm sorry, when you have 12 of them, they all kind of, start to blend together. So we have 12 subcommittees going right now. Each one of them has between 6 to 10 people on them. So we've been working with a lot of people over the last couple of months here. And this is one of the committees, one of the 3 that got started towards kind of the end part of our subcommittee process because of all the great planning work that was recently completed in this area, and as well in some of the other areas as well. So really what we're looking to this committee to do would be to help us take a look at the recently adopted Arts and Culture Plan, and then add in any additions or modifications or spotlights that you would like to see in addition to what was already completed recently here. And so you see what I have in front of you. For those who are online, I am sharing my screen. Summary, what we're going to do today is kind of go over the recent planning work that was completed as part of Arts and Culture, and how to integrate it into the comprehensive plan. And as I mentioned, we'll also explore other topics to include in the plan. So things we want to talk about are recent arts and culture planning work, a method of incorporating it into the comprehensive plan, as well as arts and culture ideas and issues from our comprehensive plan phase 1 engagement. So if I take a couple steps back, our comprehensive plan is basically a guiding document for the city of Winona over the next 10 to 15 years, and it covers a number of different categories, this being one of them. And so the first step in any comprehensive plan is gathering public input. We received responses from over 2,000 people in our initial phase of data gathering last year. And those responses that we received from the public are included in a overall report that we did for that first phase, but also specifically related to arts and culture are on the second page of the document for the people who are here, and shown on the screen for those who are joining us online. So responses about arts and culture recognize the liveliness and sense of community that events and concerts bring, mentioning events like Live at the Levee, drive-in movies, and concerts at the Bandshell. And so we received a total of 80 comments about arts and culture in response to questions about issues and ideas for Winona's future. And these issues and ideas are things that we just asked point blank for people. People may not have the background that those sitting at the table or joining us online do. And also probably most likely because the plan came out so recently, haven't reviewed to a certain extent the planning work that's been done. So we just asked them, what are some things that you'd like to see in the future? And what are some things that are important to you? And so you see those ideas and issues listed on this piece of, on this document. And so what we wanted to do is directly integrate those comments into this subcommittee's work, taking a look at the planning work that has been done already, but then also anything we'd like to touch on in specific as well. Going back to the overall product, so really what we're looking at is 2 to 3 meetings for the subcommittee, kind of short and sweet to a certain extent. But what we'd like to do is, in accordance with the vision, values, and comprehensive plan overarching themes, which we'll talk about in 1 second here, the arts plan, vision, goals, and strategies and appropriate new topics identified by the subcommittee are recommended for incorporation into the comp plan. So basically, that's a long way of saying we want to incorporate all the work that's been done up till now into the comprehensive plan, all the main bullet points. Some of the specific details on how to achieve some of the goals and strategies will exist outside of the comprehensive plan so that those can be altered in a standalone document, because in order to alter the comprehensive plan, you have to go through probably about a 2-month approval process in front of the Planning Commission and City Council. So the idea is we want to integrate the key vision and values from the arts and culture plan, but not as much of the details, so that the details can change and shift over the next 10 to 15 years here. And so I'll go over that, how we would like to at least approach that just from a nuts and bolts perspective. And then I'll talk a little bit briefly here about the vision and values that were established at the beginning of this exercise that we've doing with the comprehensive plan. Then after that, Chad can give some background on the arts and culture plan itself. So what I am going to do next is bring up the arts and culture strategic plan. And so what we'd like to do with this plan is there's a lot of great information at the beginning of the plan, but really when it comes down to the nuts and bolts, what we'd be looking at doing for the comprehensive plan, it starts on page 26 of that document, the plan. And so what we want to do is directly incorporate the vision from that plan word for word into the comprehensive plan. So here's our vision here that we're looking to incorporate right into the comprehensive plan. And so what we do in addition to that is we would also incorporate these goals verbatim into the comprehensive plan as well. Goals 1 through 4. And then going even further, what we would also do is directly import into the comprehensive plan the sub bullet points 1.1, 1.2, and so on, with that number as well as the other ones. What we would leave out are these specific strategies, 1.1.1, 1.1.2, so that we can either add to those or change those in the next 10 to 15 years here without having to go through a comprehensive plan amendment. So that's kind of that's the nuance here, where we want to keep the key information, but some of the details we look to leave out so that they can be amended independently of the comprehensive plan process. And finally, I'll share vision and values. And so these vision and values are related to the comprehensive plan. And basically, They were approved by the city council. They are a draft working vision and values. So the idea is that every subcommittee works with the knowledge of these vision and values that have been drafted ahead of time, but that they're not final until the actual document is eventually adopted here. We're looking at second quarter 2023 for that. But this overall vision and values was created based on that lengthy public input that we received during the first part of this process, where we talked to approximately 10% of the population of the city of Winona, which is huge for a community public outreach and input process. And so you see the vision there up at the top, followed by 4 values that kind of have 2 parts. And, you know, last but not least is the learning and culture. And you can see what we wrote there related to diversity of educational offerings, events, and community institutions, lifelong learning, and the exploration of arts and culture. We celebrate the contribution of our youth and community members of all ages to artistic cultural fabric and work to empower everyone to thrive in our city. Just knowing that overall vision up at the top and these values are there kind of helps to set the tone for what we'll be taking a look at over the next couple of meetings here with this subcommittee. And so with that, I'll just go back to our original summary sheet. And I'll ask if there are any questions at this point before we proceed any further with some additional background on some of the planning work that has been done thus far.
Carlos, that vision value sheet, is that accessible to us?
Definitely, yep. And so one thing I will mention too is that everything that we have here related to this committee will be on the city's website under our comprehensive plan document.
Okay.
And we can also just email that to you as well.
Oh, that would be great. So that is like a separate document?
Yep,
That one?
separate document.
That'd be great.
Yep,
Okay,
we'll have that for you.
thank you.
And also in addition to this subcommittee, all of our other subcommittees are being recorded as well, and they're available on our City of Winona YouTube channel. So that definitely helps us when we're going back, creating minutes and making sure that we're tying everything together at the end. Any other questions? And I'll say hi to Ben. Ben, could you introduce yourself? Thanks for joining us today. Your microphone isn't on, Ben. We can't hear you. Okay, still not working. Well, we see you, and we are appreciative to see your face. So thanks for joining us today. All right, so what I will do is I'll hand it over to City Manager Chad Ubel to talk a little bit about the planning work that has been done related to arts and culture recently, and give us a synopsis of that.
Thanks, Carlos. So over a 2-year process in, I guess, late 20 and through 21, and then a tad bit into 2022, we hired the cultural planning group to conduct a standalone arts and culture plan for the city of Winona. Much like the comprehensive plan, many of you participated both from taking public input, and then some of you here today certainly were on the steering committee for that plan as well. So we did gather, as Carlos mentioned, a lot of input also from the public. That we were happy with the number of responses and input that we got from the community regarding the arts and culture plan. The cultural planning group also was very good about, I think, their outreach into the community as well. So intentional focus groups, meeting with business owners, those in the culinary, local artists, again, broad spectrum of arts, and actually going out and talking to individuals, gathering that input. So a steering committee was formed for the plan that took more of the, I think, more of the intensive work that was done based on the feedback that came back. As Carlos just, briefly went over, established the goals and the initiatives for the plan, The arts and culture plan at that time then was also reviewed by the Fine Arts Commission. So the Fine Arts Commission at that time then reviewed the plan, acknowledged that, or certainly gave their input, and then like an official process, they approved the plan and recommended it get adopted by City Council. So then this past February, the arts and culture plan was officially, we say, received and instituted by the council with the idea that it would be worked into the comprehensive plan update, as Carlos has mentioned. We had some, I think, positive success when we did the Winona Parks Comprehensive System Plan a few years back, where you have this significant planning document that's outside of the city comp plan. And we brought the parks plan forward. We brought the parks plan forward for adoption by the city council, and then the subsequent meeting or close to the within 2 council meetings, we actually brought one initiative item that was in the goals and initiatives then forward as well. Just also to reinforce that, you know, we took a lot of community input. There's a lot of goals and initiatives in here, and let's not just have this thing sit on the shelf and that one of the things you do is then you do you just come right back with one of the initiatives. The initiative that was chosen to come forward was to reconstitute, reimagine the Fine Arts Commission. So part of that process through the arts plan was to, technical term would be to repeal the ordinance that established the Fine Arts Commission, which the council did. And then at that same meeting, the mayor instituted a mayor's task force to reimagine the Fine Arts Commission. So one initiative was, should the community explore a creative commission that would then report back in an advisory role to the council and reestablish the parameters of that commission. So things like membership and terms and what are the makeup of members, so we get a broad spectrum of the community. We had our first meeting for the mayor's task force regarding the creative commission. And I think we meet next week again for our second meeting. Their task is to rewrite the ordinance and bylaws to establish this new creative commission. So a little bit of detail there, but there is another group already working on one of the goals and initiatives from the plan. I think Carlos, unless there's anything else you want me to go over, that's I guess the summary of establishment, and then there's really a little bit of action happening currently.
Thank you, Chad. Before we go any further, any questions for Chad? All right. So moving forward here, what we'd like to do is take a look, first of all, at what the existing plan has in terms of vision and the goals. And just wanting to ask everybody who's here, what are you excited about when it comes to arts and culture over the next 10 to 15 years? What are you excited about seeing happen in Winona over the next 10 to 15 years? So think about that while you take a look here at our vision that's established by the comp plan. Winona is a community of entrepreneurs, creative workers, artists, industrial workers, farmers, and others who are connected through their love of Winona. Then also the goals, the main goals that will be incorporated into the comprehensive plan, which are enhancing city support systems for Winona's creative life, promote and grow our creative economy, supporting inclusive creativity for all residents and visitors, and then expanding access to creative sector facilities and spaces. So in consideration of that vision and those goals for the future, again, I just wanted to ask each committee member here, what are you excited about when it comes to arts and culture over the next 10 to 15 years here? And since Aaron is here and looking right at me right now, I'm going to call on him first, but then he'll get asked last for the next question. So how about that?
I had an English teacher who said to one of her students, "Avert your eyes," and I should have done that. So I'm excited to see more activities happening throughout the year, um, and kind of enliven downtown. The thing that I'm excited about nightlife happening. That is, I saw that there were a lot of comments here that are kind of anti-bar, and I'm not necessarily anti-bar, but I'm pro other things. And I'm excited that there's the possibility of having some downtown nightlife that isn't related to drinking. That's very exciting. And the expansion of opportunities for groups to have access to the spaces is really exciting. And I'm excited by, this goal number 3 that talks about, representing or supporting inclusivity and diversity. And because that's a challenge in this community just because of lack of exposure, is my, generous assumption. But we've gotten some resistance at the Shakespeare Festival to our efforts to be inclusive, and I don't think they're widespread, but it is active resistance, and I just look forward to there being more of a platform citywide to honor and respect the diversity and inclusivity of our community, so that efforts that are made by organizations are not seen as a political move, which is how our actions have been interpreted. And so having that support at a broader city level just puts kind of a stamp of approval on the things that we're doing, and recognizing that they're not partisan, that this is human issues. So I look forward to that.
Does that mean I'm next?
Yes, we'll go around the table first here.
Sure. I think I'll agree with Aaron that I'm really excited about the different ways that the city is kind of investing in spaces. Really looking forward to the renovation of the band shell and hoping that'll get used a lot more by our creative groups in town. Seeing how things go with the Masonic. Fingers crossed that keeps moving forward. Also looking forward to seeing how now with COVID kind of not ending, but changing, and everyone getting out and about again and having a social life again. The more awareness that seems to be coming of what everybody's working on, the different initiatives, creative people and organizations are creating or have been working on while they've been hermits the last few years, and seeing those things come to fruition and seeing how the city can support them has really been exciting to see trickle up over the last few years, and seeing how that develops going forward. It's going to be really fun. Your turn, Sharon.
Carrie, just making notes. Yeah, so yeah, I agree with what Aaron and Carrie were just saying. I guess what I would add to that, and this relates to that diversity, equity, inclusion aspect and those initiatives, is how within the web of all the aspects of art and creativity here, how individual artists are being supported. So that it's great to support organizations and businesses and festival structures on that bigger scale. But as an individual artist who also does a lot of directing and programming and curating, and I'm personally not wanting to take on the nonprofit status and structure. And I know there's other artists who are, doing a lot of important grassroots work who, feed into this whole ecosystem. So I'd be really, really interested to see what kind of support. I mean, the funding support, increasing that would be helpful, but also support in terms of housing and what sort of work rehearsal spaces, creative making spaces that we have access to, and what sort of process-based ecosystems, so that there's the I wouldn't call it a product, but they're the more public facing aspects of our art community and culture community and sharings. But to keep tilling the soil, to keep creating the conditions for artist citizens to be here and to be able to live here, to be able to have a life here, to be able to have a whole life here, and to be able to support ourselves and to grow and educate. So opportunities for us to go and learn. Sometimes we get isolated here in the upper Midwest. So chances to go and train elsewhere, but to come back here, because we've talked a lot about how to retain, different layers of our community here, to be able to have artists have a chance to go and train and see, and then come back and then, work that into what we're doing here would also, I think, be really important as well. So again, there's this supporting the art itself for audiences and activities and spaces, but how are you nurturing the behind the scenes aspect and the whole, and the whole person. Yeah, how would a person live an entire life here as an artist maker? Yeah, so I think that just to add to what's already been said really quite well. Thank you.
And thanks, Sharon. I'm sorry, I'll jump in real quick before you speak, Jamie. I just wanted to note how that is a great kind of not segue, but one thing I wanted to add related to what Sharon said is just that the crossing over between the subcommittees that we have here. Housing is something that has come up again and again and again throughout our comprehensive plan process. So that's definitely something that'll be front and center with the comp plan, is how do we increase housing choice and the ability to live affordably in the city of Winona within, whatever budget that you have. And we've seen the need for housing across the whole spectrum, all types of housing, all price points. So that'll be something that's a key component of the plan. But also in terms of another subcommittee, our land use subcommittee, what can you do in what parts of the city and what can't you do? I mean, if we're promoting art, we want that to be something that's a permitted use throughout the city. And so the things that you're working on here and the things that are in this section of the comprehensive plan also touch other sections as well and are deeply interwoven. In addition, our economic development subcommittee, one of the main focuses of that subcommittee has been the crucial livability of Winona and how you can live here, work here, find entertainment here. And that's where arts and culture plays a huge part in making Winona a unique place. And so very much interweaving with the other subcommittees and what they've been talking about as well.
Give me a mic. This is what happens as a performer. That's great to hear too, Carlos, the crossover, and that makes sense. Yeah, I'd love to actually talk to people across different, sector areas. That'd be exciting. Yeah, and just one other brief note. When I hear people talk about the arts in Winona, often dance is left out of the list. And I don't know why that is, because there's a lot of dance happening here. So I don't know, we had, St. Mary's, when the Page was still happening, had one dance festival, the first one, which of course became the last one for now, but it was, it happened during 2020, mostly online. And anyway, and now the Page series is no more. But I just want to encourage people to include dance in the conversation. Again, I don't know why it hasn't been so much, but there is a professional community here. It is active. It's cross-cultural. It's vibrant and it's relevant. And I do feel it would be important to nurture dance as well as all the other art forms. And it often is neglected in our country. So again, I think it would take, like Erin was talking about, a platform, advocacy work to say, hey, yes, this is an important art form and we do value it here, even if there's not a big festival, for example. And I think that dovetails well in with diversity, equity, inclusion efforts, because dance is about the body and our bodies are cultural carriers. So I think it also could be a really natural and vital way to work within that realm, that crossover. So that's it now. Okay, thanks.
Yeah, I think I wholeheartedly agree kind of with everything that has been said. And I guess I'm just excited. It is kind of that rebirth of everything now that COVID is kind of coming to its end and we're living with it, right? And so kind of excited about that, excited about the city you know, being involved in and recognizing the need for space as somebody that used to run a facility that had space, and as somebody that is involved in other organizations that need space. Sometimes I think that that's a huge issue here. And so to have some of those public spaces, like hopefully the, you know, fingers crossed that the Masonic Center gets, you know, fixed up and things like that. And especially I think with recognizing that the Page Theater probably is not in the play of things, that's going to affect the community, I think, you know, and who knows, maybe there'll be rentals or whatever, but I think that's a huge loss for our community with the Page series being gone and different things that are happening there. And so I look forward to seeing how else some of the existing artists and organizations can kind of step up and fill in those needs, especially that year-long. I think that year-long service, you know, I think there is sometimes a lot of focus on the festivals, which bring amazing things to our community, and definitely bring in that tourism traffic. But I think that, you know, making sure that we do have year-long opportunities and to get people to stay that are going to work at those festivals that are going to then stay year-long, you know, and maybe create also, you know, I don't know where Shakespeare's at, but I know with Frozen River I know that there's been a lot of initiatives to make it more of a year-long program. So, you know, I think that support from the city and things like that can be helpful in that way. I also really love that the idea of the, you know, I was on the River Arts Alliance when it kind of, or well, I guess that was kind of, but Poet Laureate went to Creative Laureate, and I really support that because then it is more inclusive of the other art forms as well. And I think that that's a really can be a really good marker for an individual artist to have that opportunity to kind of that platform as far as in their career and things like that.
All right, thank you, those that are here. For those that are joining us, Ben, I know your microphone's not working right now. If you could just type something in the chat in the next couple minutes here. Oh, hey, there we go. He was already good to go. So growth of downtown nightlife and then continued growth and availability / access. And I'll just double check to make sure there isn't. Access to arts, culture, entertainment, opportunities and programs for underserved, underrepresented populations in the community, and then developing and investing in the arts district downtown. Okay, thank you, Ben. Next, Joy, we'll call on you.
I really appreciate the points that people have made so far. I'm excited about greater accessibility for people in our community. I was very interested in the last paragraph that was sent out in the PDF, the one that was emailed to us, and it. I think that's what Aaron was alluding to when he said that some conversations had been had. I would love to know more about this and some of the barriers in place and how we could approach this and possibly change minds and hearts so that funding goes toward everything and not just what is considered appropriate. I'm very excited about greater inclusivity, including especially people with disabilities. I'd love to see more of that. And as a professor at Winona State, I would love to see more interaction between college students and the community. When I ask my students how often they get out into the community or what sorts of community things they're doing, do they know any community members? No, they're not out in the community. There seems to be almost no interaction between community members and college students, even though we have 3 colleges and universities here. There is so much youthful energy and enthusiasm at these schools. I think that we could harness that. I think that we could harness it in a way that benefits what we're trying to do here. When I asked my students why they chose to come to Winona State out of the other schools they could have gone to, so many of them talk about the beauty of the place. It's beautiful with the bluffs, the water. Some kids come just for partying. I guess Winona State has a bit of a reputation for being a party school. But I think that there could be so much more interaction between college students and the community, so that when college students come here, when their parents drop them off, they know that they have chosen a school for their child where the child will be welcomed into the community, the child can help benefit the community. So I'm not sure how that would come about, but I think that it could benefit everyone.
Thank you, Joy. And the last paragraph that you were alluding to, is that what is on the screen right now under number 5, public-private partnerships?
Yes, that's the one, especially the line, they threaten to remove funding from the arts if they pay more in taxes. I find it problematic that they support the arts that they support. Again, I'm reading from this document. And Aaron mentioned that a move to support broader arts, different sorts of arts, could be seen as political, and that's problematic. Art is for everyone.
Perfect. Thank you, Joy. Appreciate
Sure.
it. And last online, Dylan, if you could share with us in Winona, what are you excited about over the next 10 to 15 years here when it comes to arts and culture?
Yeah. So I gotta be honest, I'm a live music guy pretty much through and through. So I have some blind spots in other areas. But you know, speaking just on a live music and a perspective of being a musician, being a buyer, being a booking agent, Winona is in a unique position because there are festivals and things that are happening within the city that can bring out different types of music. But there's this concept of a venue ladder, which I've talked about a lot in terms of like creating art cities, and this has to do with nightlife, and it has to do with just being able to sustain music, especially if you're trying to grow live music in your city. So I mean, like you have places like No Name where you can play a $5 bar show, and maybe you'll get about $200 playing a show. You get booked festival like ours, you're probably looking at somewhere around $500 to $1,000 that you're getting paid. And so even with that, you're not sustaining, kind of a model that you can be an artist full time. So I think, some of the things that to consider is just having places where, you can not only have local music, but you can have national acts. And we can do our best as a festival to bring those in. But I think, in terms of just a community, like obviously the Masonic is a fantastic space that you could see, someone coming in and playing a big show. It's a big cap room. But also just like thinking about how that grows, if you have a band like say like Karate Chop Silence that everyone's familiar with, you probably, they start off, playing shows to 25, 50 people, and you have to get to a point where, they can play a show in front of, I mean, they're getting a little too big for No Name at this point. You have to get a venue where they can play in front of 300, 400 people. And so just thinking about that, there's similar cities like Asheville in North Carolina that have not really been known for, I mean, they're up in the mountains and of course it's beautiful up there, but they're not in a place that is great for tour routing for national acts. But people come there because they have a solid venue ladder where you can see, okay, I'm going to play this venue at 250. I'm going to play this venue at 400 the next time, and you can keep building and building. And I think, in Minnesota, we have, Minneapolis, obviously, but I think the two cities that are kind of like duking it out for that next spot is Rochester and Winona in terms of like proximity to the cities, where you know people can, if they can't find a show in the cities, can come to Winona. So there's some ideas like that that I'm kind of kicking around in my head, and you know, as things start to go, you know, like you have to find ways to, you know, sustain live music so that people can feel like they're getting a good end of the deal. A $5 bar show like is not going to be enough for, you know, some of the acts that I know. You know, they need, you know, 700 to, you know, up to $5,000 guarantees, you know. So like building a budget, and you know, especially in the community, reinforcing paying for art, and that's in all types of disciplines, that really helps grow, you know, not only live music, but you know, just kind of changing that paradigm of like, you know, buying tickets early, you know, really supporting things, buying merch, buying art, and you know, that's something that's very like it's very like out there, like how do you change people's minds about buying art? But there's ways that you can market it as a community to say, you know, like we're all in this together, you know, we're all like, you know, passing around the same money anyways, so like let's get some money into the arts. So looking forward to seeing how funding bases grow for all disciplines in the coming years.
Definitely. Thank you, Dylan. I appreciate that very much. All right. Well, thank you everybody for sharing. Today, we're at about 1:15 here, and we'll be looking at, for our next meeting, taking a look at that arts and culture plan. And really what I'd focus your attention on are the last, and we can email this out to you. It also came as a link in our meeting request for today, but really the last 13 pages of the plan. I say 13 pages. Thanks, Dylan. We'll see you later. And I say 13 pages, but it's really, I think, well done and very clear to understand when you're taking a look at these goals and strategies. So it's page 28 through 40 of the plan. And yes, it is, you know, 12, 13 pages, but a relatively quick read. And so what I would ask the subcommittee members to do between this meeting and next meeting is just take a look at that and come prepared with kind of thoughts on what those goals, objectives, and strategies are, and if there's any additions that you would like to emphasize in the comprehensive plan. Taking a look at the plans that were recently done, we see the comprehensive plan as a great way to highlight specific things that, in addition to what's already in these plans, you want to see highlighted in an overarching city document that helps guide policy and action in the next 10 to 15 years here. So I'd encourage everybody to take a look at that and see what types of additions you would like to see to those goals that are listed, as well as some of the strategies that are listed as well. So for our next meeting here, if we're looking 2 weeks out, we'd be looking at the 29th. So that's August 29th at 12:30. And since we're all here, if you could check your calendars and kind of let me know in general, does that time and does that date and time work good for you? I'm seeing a lot of nods, some thumbs up. One, no for Sharon. Okay. All right. Well, we can always connect with you one-on-one, and you know, if you share something with Luke or I, we can reiterate it to the group at the meeting as well. So
that also won't work for me. I'll be teaching.
okay. So there's two that wouldn't work. How about if we were to take a look at 2 weeks out? How about the next day? That would be the 30th. Okay. Do that one, Joy. That'll work. You good?
Yes, that works for
Carrie?
me.
All right. So how about we plan on Tuesday the 30th at 12:30, from 12:30 to 1:30. And Jamie, again, if you want to share some stuff.
I'll see. There's possibly that we're out of town, but if something changes, I'll let you know.
Okay, yep, and it definitely, you can do either Zoom or attend here too, if you like, so. All right, so we will plan on the 30th at 12:30, from 12:30 to 1:30. And we'll look at summing it up here today. Any other comments or questions before we bid adieu? All right, well, thanks everybody again for your participation here, and we'll see you in another 2 weeks and a day. Have a good one.